Alright, now we're going to go ahead and start assembling all the pieces. So I have put my credit card pockets in here, lined them up. This goes just a little bit below the edge of the wallet there and back here, which is what you want. And you really want to pull this flap over as tight as you can get it, because when you close the wallet up, if it's not as tight as it can be, this is going to stick out on the side, and then that is really undesirable. The other thing that I really like to do is I like to make sure that I'm back stitching at the ends really well. So this is where machines kind of can bog down if they're not used to sewing heavy, thick stuff. So good luck with that. Seems like people who have mechanical machines or some of the old-fashioned machines, the old vintage machines, find that they do really well with this stuff, where some of the newer ones, newer sewing machines, electronic ones, sometimes balk at sewing such heavy stuff. So if you're having trouble with your machine sewing it, you might want to go ahead and go to Goodwill and see if you can find an old Kenmore or something like that that sews through everything. I know I bought, my first machine was a Kenmore, and when they demoed that machine, they sewed through a piece of carpeting to show just how strong it was, and sure enough, that's was its strength, its claim to fame. Okay, now with my zipper pocket, the way I'm going to sew this in is I'm using this line right here where the center of my credit card pocket is. That's kind of the center line of the whole thing, and this is going to fit in like that. It's going to be sewed down there, and then it's going to be sewed up on the side. So what I did was I measured from the top across here, and it was exactly 7 inches. So I made a center line right at 3.5 inches, which is this center little orange line. I'm going to line that right up on my center line below, and I'm going to look and see if it's even here. Yep, it's even here. Yep, it's good. So I'm going to sew 1/2 inch from that center line, and I've got them marked with 2 colored pencil lines here, and I'm just going to sew a great big rectangle. It's going through all the layers, and just fit it down in between those flaps. Pull the flaps aside, and it should fit in there just perfect. And we're going to go and sew down the sides here. Okay, we're in good shape. That's sewed in now. There's my center. Alright, now what remains to be done is to sew these up to the sides, and then we're going to be all finished. I went ahead and I put my other magnetic closure in over here. Our pattern tells us 2.5 inches, and I find that's too low, because then that makes your wallet have your flap go way down, and it's too tight. You can't fill it with stuff. So I do it about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches, something like that. So it makes it easier to fill up and not feel like it's going to pop open because it's too overstuffed. Now I can go ahead and trim these little ends off. I don't really need them anymore. I'm going to trim them off pretty even with the edge of the bag. Can be a little bit over. Move this zipper a little. Now on your pattern, it's marked on the pattern the lines that radiate out from the center, and somehow I never can get a pencil through that template. So the other thing is to go ahead and just use a ruler, and I tell you, you want to measure from there 3.5 inches up on the side flap. So there's my line for 3.5 inches, and then I just draw an additional line from the base of where this is sewed up to that mark that I just made. So I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. Ideally, when you tuck this in, this should be below the edge of the side flap. And that's the ideal. If it's up like this, that's not good, because then all that raw edge shows. So ideally, it should just fit right there. Let me unloosen this. And now the fun begins, because I need to clip this or pinch this and somehow get it underneath my presser foot. And I like to back stitch up here at the top, sew through that zipper tab, and you don't have to sew all the way to the bottom. You just need to sew down about 2 inches, 2.5. You're catching that side of that pocket in there. If your machine can't negotiate this, you can use rivets there, and you're just basically using 1 or 2 rivets, so it doesn't, it's never sewed all the way down to the bottom. So don't worry about that. Some people like to start at the bottom and work to the top. I like to start at the top and work to the bottom, because I feel like I can control it a little bit better, and I can get a good back stitch right up there at the top. And I'm not precise about how far down I go. And it doesn't seem to really matter too much. Okay, on this side I'm matching up my line that I made. And as I said, you kind of got to wrestle it and get the other pieces out of there so that they're not going to get sewed in. And one more. Hey, hallelujah, she's done. Girl power. Very cute. Love it. Wonder Woman. Supergirl. Batwoman. They're darling. Okay. I'm going to sew my strap, and then I'm going to be done with this project. Okay. Either strap that I make using a 4-inch wide piece of fabric, and then I go ahead and I fold it in half, and I put the Deco Bond fabric 1-inch strips, and then fold this in, and then fold it over like that to make about a 1-inch wide one. And then I have this particular type of lobster claw clasp. This came from Emmaline, and it's just the right width to fit on here. But before I stitch the sides, what I want to do is I want to thread this on here, and then I want to take the ends of this and open them out and stitch across there so that I can make a really neat loop. I know sometimes you forget, and you forget to put your lobster claw clasp on first. And if you do that, you can use a split ring and then attach the clasp with a split ring, and then it does the same thing. But, you know, it's better if you just remember. This one, this particular lobster claw clasp has this nice wide ring here. And and some of the narrower ones, some that have not as wide of a loop at the end of them, I use the split rings anyway, just to attach them. That makes it a little bit easier. You would find some of those types with the narrower ring on the end at some of your less expensive or cheaper outlets. We've bought stuff that comes from China, and sometimes those are the ones that are the least expensive, but they turn out to not be the quality of the stuff that we can get from Emmaline. So, you know, you can make up your mind what you want to do on that. Lots of different sources for it. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm sewing around this, I'm going to need to move that that clasp so it just stays on the loop, but just get out of the way of my stitching. And I'm going to sew on both sides. I'm going to sew on the side where I folded it all in, and I'm going to sew on the other edge too. And this is about a half of a width of fabric. So it's about maybe 20 to 21 inches long before I start. And that'll be a pretty good size wrist loop. Now if you want to sew crossbody strap, I use like 1.5 strips 4 inches wide if I want to make it adjustable, and especially if the person is a little bit taller, that you want more than 41 inch, 42 inch length for the crossbody strap. And I also use adjusters on that you can do sliders and adjusters so that you can make it as long or as short as you want it to be. It's sort of like a whole nother segment in the story here. We wanted to do that. And I'm just going to sew across this, and now I'm finished with that. So you can attach this on any side of those D-rings. She's done. She's cute.